Imagine finding out that, like, the solid physical reality you're sitting in right now.
Your body, the chair, the room.
Yeah, exactly. All of it. What if that is actually the smallest, most restricted part of who you are?
It's a pretty wild thought.
Right. I mean, we spend all day managing this physical form. We feed it, we rest it, we stress over where it needs to be. But what if the physical world is just the innermost layer of something unfathomably vast?
And that is exactly what we're looking at today.
Yes. Looking at the translated texts and philosophical notes you sent us on the Upaniṣadic, we're going to explore a really radical perspective shift. Today's deep dive decodes an ancient, highly detailed map of human consciousness.
It's a remarkable framework, really.
And to guide you through this map, we are going to use a surprisingly relatable visual aid, a set of Russian nesting dolls.
I love that analogy. Because we're taking something that is often treated as, purely esoteric or mystical, and grounding it directly in the architecture of your everyday moment-to-moment experience.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you're like me, you probably just think of OM as like a sound you make at the beginning or end of a yoga class.
Right, or a symbol printed on a tote bag.
Exactly. But these sources claim it is so much more than just a chant. So how exactly does a single syllable map out the entire universe?
Well, to understand that, we really have to look at how the ancient texts, specifically the Upaniṣadic, define OM. They refer to it as a pratīka ālambanam.
Okay, and what does that actually mean?
In simple terms, it means it's a non-personal symbol representing absolute totality. Yeah. It's not a deity with a human form or anything like that. It is the fundamental structure of creation itself.
Wow.
Yeah, the root of the word even means to protect. It's the container for everything. And this map isn't drawn with ink. It's built entirely on the phonetic breakdown of the syllable.
So when you chant OM, you aren't just making one sound.
No, not at all. You are generating 3 distinct consecutive sounds.
Yeah.
A, U, and M. And those are then followed by silence.
A-U-M. And those sounds actually map directly to those Russian nesting dolls we mentioned.
They do, yeah.
So if we look at the breakdown, each sound corresponds to a different doll of our daily experience. Let's start with the first sound, A.
Right, the A-kāra.
This represents the waking state, which the texts call Jāgrat. This is the outermost doll of our experience. It's your gross physical body and the visible, tangible world of objects you interact with right now.
And even phonetically, if you completely relax your vocal cords and just, open your mouth to speak,
right,
A is naturally the very first sound that emerges.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that physical action of opening the mouth mirrors the concept perfectly. It is the beginning of manifestation. When you're in the waking state, you identify entirely with the physical body.
You're just a localized entity moving through time and space.
Exactly, dealing with physical objects. Then the map moves to the second sound, U. As you push the sound forward and shape your lips, it transitions from A to U. This corresponds to the dream state, or Svapna,
which is the subtle body. So when you fall asleep, the physical world shuts down. You don't see your bedroom, you don't feel the blankets, but your mind is still projecting a whole universe.
Yes, your inner world.
Your thoughts, your intellect, your emotions, they're all still active. This is the second nesting doll, found inside the first. It's a much subtler layer of reality.
In the dream state, you aren't interacting with physical objects anymore. You're interacting with mental impressions. You are experiencing a universe generated entirely by your own mind.
It's fascinating.
And then finally, we reach the third sound, M. As your lips physically close to make the M sound, cutting off the airflow, you enter deep sleep, or Svapna.
Which is the causal body.
Exactly. The causal body where all mental activity goes completely dormant.
Okay, wait. Let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
I completely get the waking body because, I'm in it right now, and I get the dreaming mind because I remember my dreams. But how is deep sleep considered a doll or a universe?
Ah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, like when I'm in deep, dreamless sleep, it's just a blackout. There's literally nothing there. How can blankness be a layer of reality?
What's really fascinating here is that is a very common misconception. We assume that blankness equals emptiness.
Right. Doesn't it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
The Mātrās Upaniṣadic clarifies that this state of deep sleep is actually the causal universe, or a Jāgrat. It is a state of unmanifest potential. It's just pure blank bliss.
Unmanifest potential. Okay.
So understand this. Think of a seed. If you hold a tiny apple seed in your hand and cut it open, you don't see a miniature tree inside.
No, you don't see bark or leaves.
Right. It just looks like a blank uniform mass. but you know that the entire complex tree is packed into that tiny space as potential.
Oh, wow.
Deep sleep is the seed. It is the causal state from which both your complex dreaming mind and your waking physical world arise every single morning.
That completely flips how I think about sleeping. I always thought of it as my brain just, shutting down or turning off.
It's not turning off at all. It's retreating into the seed. Everything is still there, just condensed.
Condensed into potential. But the sources highlight that the biggest aha moment of this entire map isn't even about the 3 sounds. It's about what happens after the M, the silence.
Yes, turiya?
Right, turiya. The text emphasizes that you, the listener, are actually none of these dolls. You aren't the physical body dealing with the daily grind. You aren't the dreaming mind with its racing thoughts, and you aren't even the dormant seed of deep sleep.
You are the silence that follows the chant.
You are the pure, limitless awareness that contains and witnesses all of those dolls.
Exactly. The silence is the continuous background. All sounds arise from it, play out within it, and eventually resolve back into it. It's the space that holds the nesting dolls.
The profound realization they're trying to guide you toward is that you are not the objects inside the space, you are the space itself. Okay, so that gives us the inward journey. We just looked at the dolls from the outside in, starting at our waking life, dropping down through dreams into deep sleep, and finally landing on that silence source.
Right.
But if I am that limitless, perfect silence, I'm left wondering, why did I leave it? How did I end up sitting in traffic, stressing over a work deadline, feeling totally trapped in this limited physical body?
That brings us to the outward journey, what the texts call pravakti marga.
Okay, the outward journey.
It describes the actual mechanism of creation. How does limitless space become a stressed person in traffic? When we look at this process of creation, the dolls nest in the exact reverse order.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. The absolute outermost doll, the one containing the entire cosmos, is the pure limitless source. From there, a fundamental energy, often called Maya or Shakti, begins to coalesce.
It condenses.
Yes. It becomes denser and denser, moving inward until the innermost, smallest, most restricted doll becomes your limited human body and mind.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So wait, if the source is formless, but I am solid and physical right now, is this basically like the states of water?
How do you mean?
Well, think about it. The source is like invisible steam. It's formless, it's everywhere, it has no boundaries. Then that steam condenses into fluid water, which takes the shape of whatever container it's in.
Okay, I follow.
That fluid state is our subtle mind, our thoughts and emotions constantly shifting and flowing. And finally, that water freezes into solid, rigid ice. That ice is our gross physical body.
That's a great way to picture it.
It's dense, it's heavy, it's restricted to one place. But whether it's steam, water, or ice, it is all exactly the same H2O, just different levels of condensation. Am I on the right track there?
You're absolutely on the right track. The water metaphor is a very helpful starting point for visualizing how something formless becomes solid. But the texts actually push the concept a step further with a slightly different visual.
Oh, what's that?
Well, water changes its chemical state entirely when it becomes ice. Sūkṣma, one of the primary philosophers of this tradition, prefers the image of butter in milk or oil in a seed.
Hey, how does that change the perspective?
With butter in milk, the solid butter doesn't just replace the milk. The potential for the butter is already present, completely pervading the liquid milk in an unmanifest way.
Oh, I see. It isn't a different substance altogether.
Exactly. It just requires a specific process churning to bring it out into a solid, localized form. The energy coalesces. Sūkṣma also provides another really profound visual to explain how we get, quote-unquote, trapped in the physical.
Let's hear it.
Imagine the human body as a clay pot with 5 holes in it.
And the holes represent our 5 senses.
Yes. Inside that pot is the bright, boundless light of pure consciousness.
Okay, I'm picturing it. A pot with 5 holes, bright light inside.
The light naturally shines out through those 5 holes, illuminating the world around it. But from the outside, the light appears to be shaped exactly like the pot. It seems completely confined by the clay. Right. The mistake we make is assuming the light is restricted. The limitation belongs entirely to the pot, to the physical form. The light itself remains untouched, formless, and boundless.
That is a phenomenal visual. The limitation belongs to the pot, not the light.
Exactly.
So applying this, if you are going about your day and you feel small or restricted or overwhelmed by a physical ailment, The realization is that you are just the boundless light currently experiencing the clay pot.
You're the space holding the galls.
You are the boundless H2O currently having an experience in the ice stage, but your fundamental nature hasn't actually degraded.
Precisely. It shifts your identity from the transient object to the permanent witness, but we need to move from theory to reality.
Yeah, definitely.
We have the map, but how do we actually experience these nested dolls throughout a normal Tuesday? The sources go into great detail connecting this cosmological map directly to human anatomy and daily psychology.
Right, because if I'm sitting here listening to this deep dive, I'm fully in my gross physical body.
Yes, you are.
Let's break down how the map categorizes this. It divides our experience into 3 bodies, which are made up of 5 sheaths, or panchakosha. First is the gross body, which is just our anatomical system.
And the texts literally refer to it as the food sheath.
Because it is quite literally built by and sustained by the groceries you bought last week.
Yeah, it's just the physical matter.
Then there's the subtle body, which is divided into sheaths covering your vital energy, your emotional mind, and your intellect. This is the internal chatter, the decision-making, the anxieties.
All the mental processing.
And finally, there's the causal body, which is the bliss sheath, that unconscious layer we hit in deep sleep. But here is the major question I have when reading this.
What's that?
So what does this all mean for the listener right now? If I'm awake, standing in my kitchen doing the dishes, I am fully identified with my food sheath, my gross body. Where did the other dolls go? Do they just turn off?
They absolutely do not turn off. The dolls don't vanish, they nest hierarchically. Your identification simply shifts its focus. The text provides a brilliant analogy of a lighthouse to explain how these states interact simultaneously.
A lighthouse.
Yeah, imagine a massive lighthouse with 3 concentric rooms, one inside the other. The outermost room is the lighthouse itself, the unmoving, brilliant light of pure consciousness. This is the source.
Got it. The outer light.
The second room, built just inside that light, is dim. The light permeates it, but forms are only potential. Nothing is defined. That room is deep sleep.
Okay, the causal layer.
Inside that is a third room, where the light shines on moving, transparent images projected onto the walls, like a movie theater. That is the dream state, the subtle mind.
Wow.
And finally, the innermost room is a space where the light shines on solid, heavy, tangible objects. That is your waking state.
So the states of waking, dreaming, and sleeping aren't actually the dolls themselves. They're just rooms.
Precisely. The states are simply your consciousness shifting its beam of focus from one room to another. When you're standing in the kitchen doing the dishes, your focus is entirely on the solid objects in the innermost room.
And because your attention is consumed by the physical, you just forget the other rooms exist.
Exactly. But the light, which is the true you, is still illuminating the entire structure. The subtle body of your thoughts and the causal body of your potential are always present, operating in the background, even while you scrub a plate.
Okay, so now we have the complete map. We understand the lighthouse and its rooms. We see the nesting galls. We understand how energy condenses from formless potential into the heavy clay pot of the body.
The whole picture.
But how do we actually use this? What is the practical toolkit here? Because it's one thing to sit on a meditation cushion and say, you know, I am the limitless space. It's another thing entirely to deal with a furious email from your boss on a Monday morning.
That is the real test, isn't it?
Yeah. How does the listener use this map to actually find peace when their heart is pounding and they are totally caught up in the physical world?
This is where the ancient philosophy becomes highly psychological. The practical application is called Panchakosha Viveka.
Panchakosha Viveka.
Yes. This translates to the meditative practice of deliberately peeling back the sheaths one by one through discernment. You do this by recognizing each layer not as, quote, who you are, but as an object that you are witnessing.
Oh, I see.
The fundamental unshakable rule of this logic is, if you can observe it, it cannot be you. The eye cannot see itself. So if you can see an object, you are the subject.
Okay, let's apply that.
You start with the physical. You say to yourself, I know my physical body. I feel its aches. I feel its hunger. Therefore, I am the knower of the body. I am not the body itself.
Yeah.
You mentally step back from the food sheath.
And you can do that with your internal world, too. If I get that angry email from my boss, my chest tightens, my thoughts start racing, but I can observe that happen. And I can say, I see that my mind is anxious right now. I am watching the anxiety. And if I am watching the anxiety, I cannot be the anxiety. I am the witness of it.
You've got it. You're peeling back the subtle body. And to accelerate this detachment, to really help you let go of your grip on these outer dolls, the texts introduce a radical analytical tool.
What's the tool?
It's regarding the threefold defects, or dudatrayam. This principle argues that absolutely every pleasure at every level of these outer dolls has three built-in flaws.
Every pleasure.
Yes. Whether it's a physical comfort, an emotional high from praise, or intellectual success, it is fundamentally defective.
Okay, what are the three defects? Let's walk through them.
The first defect is that every worldly pleasure is mixed with pain. The effort required to acquire it, the ongoing stress to maintain it, and the constant fear of losing it means that pain is fundamentally baked into the pleasure itself.
Right, like getting a massive promotion. It feels great for a day, but suddenly you have twice the workload, you're terrified of failing, and you're stressed about office politics. The pleasure brought its own pain.
That's a perfect example.
What's the second defect?
The second is that it is impermanent. Everything in the manifest world has an expiry date. Nothing lasts.
Okay, and the third?
The third defect is that it is insatiable. Because of the law of diminishing returns, whatever you acquire, you will eventually adapt to it and want more.
So it's kind of like someone handing you a piece of candy. Let's look at the wrappers. The physical pleasure of eating it, the sugar rush, is the outer wrapper.
Okay.
The emotional thrill of being handed a gift is the inner wrapper. And the brief moment of satisfaction is the innermost wrapper. But if we analyze those wrappers using those three defects, we realize they're flawed.
How so?
Well, the wrapper is dirty. It's mixed with the pain of a stomach ache if you eat too much. It tears easily. It's impermanent. The candy is gone in 2 bites. And it doesn't actually fill you up. It's insatiable. 10 minutes later, you just want another piece of candy.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Or a new smartphone. You buy the new phone. You stress about dropping it, which is the pain. It becomes obsolete in a year, which is impermanent. And then you immediately want the next model.
Right.
Insatiable. We spend our entire lives obsessing over the wrappers.
We really do.
We cling to them, we exhaust ourselves trying to collect them, and we are devastated when they inevitably rip.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's crucial to understand that seeing these defects isn't about adopting some miserable, pessimistic view of life.
Right.
Or completely suppressing joy. The texts aren't telling you to stop enjoying things. They're telling you to stop being fooled by them. When you clearly see the defects in the wrappers, when you see that the new phone or the promotion is impermanent and mixed with stress, you stop expecting them to provide ultimate lasting fulfillment.
You stop asking the clay pot to be the infinite light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this grants you incredible mastery over your life. You can enjoy the candy, you can participate fully in your career and your relationships without being enslaved by them.
Because your foundation has shifted.
Yes. You don't lose your mind when the phone breaks or the boss gets angry. You know that your true nature, that silent awareness witnessing the whole drama, is the only thing that actually has no defects. It is permanent, it is completely painless, and it is entirely full.
That is incredibly empowering. I mean, it takes the esoteric and makes it a tool for everyday survival. We've gone from a simple chant of OM to unraveling the architecture of the entire cosmos.
It's quite the journey.
We trace the inward journey, seeing how our waking, dreaming, and sleeping states map to the A, U, and M sounds. We explored the outward journey, watching the formless source of pure awareness coalesce and condense all the way down into the heavy clay pot of the physical body.
And peeling those layers back.
Yes, looking at how to use the Panyakosha Viveka to witness our modern anxieties instead of being consumed by them.
The map ultimately shows us that the journey back to our source isn't a physical distance to be traveled. You aren't trying to go somewhere else. It's purely a shift in understanding.
A perspective shift.
Right. It's the realization that the silent space containing the nesting dolls is the very awareness that is listening to this conversation right now.
You are not the innermost doll. You are the silent space that holds every single thought, every fleeting dream, and every physical sensation. Which brings us to a final challenge for you. Tonight, as you get into bed and drift off to sleep, try a little experiment. Pay very close attention to that exact threshold between the waking world and your dreams.
That transitional moment.
Yeah, try to catch the witness. Notice the precise moment the heavy physical doll of your body falls away and the subtle mind takes over. If you can spot that tiny sliver of silence between those layers, you might just catch a glimpse of the real you.